show is a paid program.
Hey family, how you doing today? On today, we have the best of the best with us, Mr. Bob Sumner. But before we introduce him, let's look at our sponsor, DNP Productions.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Amazing things for you. Experience the pinnacle of performance at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $369 a month, or the new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $449 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for only $509 a month, all for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
When you shop Ron Carter, Cadillac.com.
Yeah. Oh boy. I'm going old school on his butt.
Let's play a game. I'm a savage.
Come on.
Whoa.
Hey, I let you still attached. Ooh, everybody right, but
I got it.
Ooh,
She got me.
classy, bougie, ratchet.
Granny's out here having a martini at halftime.
Haters gonna hate.
I'm a
Space
savage.
Jam, July 16th.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, family, thanks for coming back. We were just talking just a little bit. Let's go back to Apollo. We were just picking up right there and just talking about you just being, man, so many years later, you were there young and now
Yeah, I mean,
curator.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of taking over as curator of comedy there in 2015.
Yeah.
And on our opening night of the Apollo Comedy Club, during that day, we had inducted the first 3 non-musical performers into the Apollo Walk of Fame, one being Red Fox,
Wow.
another being Richard Pryor, and they asked me to present Jackie Moms Mabley, and I was like, wow, you're talking about full circle.
Right.
You know, that was a special moment in my, you know, my life.
Right. Because you had seen them. All of these people
I've seen
live
it,
over the years.
Over the years, I've seen many, yeah.
Wow. And looking at that, just going back a little bit, being co-creator of Russell Simmons and Def Comedy Jam, HBO's Def Comedy Jam, let's go back to how that started.
You know, it's real interesting because I took a job as assistant to the president at the company. At the time, it was a lady, Carmen Ashurst. She was the president, and I had met her through my travels as a young whippersnapper, jazz. I was a jazz booker.
Right.
You know, and I met her through her cousin, had been a part of Gregory Hines, the late great Gregory Hines band. So she had told Carmen about me, and I could possibly get one of her artists into my room, but I didn't have any openings at the time. But I did know of a show that was happening upstate New York, like a music festival, that I might be able to get her artist into on a slot. And there it was, I was doing this for the jazz artist Lonnie Liston Smith. He was one of the artists on the show. So we put the show together, and I had a young comedian performing, and she liked the comedian, young guy by the name of Bill Bellamy. And she had taken out this card, and it said Def Jam. And I didn't know that she had worked for Def Jam. I thought she was just managing the jazz artists. So when I got back to New Jersey, where I'm from, I decided to call her to see if maybe I could get Bill some opening slots with some of the Def Jam music artists. She tells me that she got a promotion to president, and she was looking for an assistant.
Wow.
And I was, you know, fresh out of Seton Hall, and I was networking, trying to make things happen. And I told her I would do it. And the next thing I know, you know, I'm doing this underground comedy thing back in Jersey. And Russell Simmons, who, you know, is the iconic Russell Simmons, he's getting ready to partner with Stan Lathan, another legend in the business. And they worked on some TV projects, and then they wanted to go and do some comedy stuff. And Carmen suggested that, you know, they check out what I'm doing. And
Wow.
the rest is history, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Just to start, and let's just going back to comedy, right? Just laughter.
Yes. The
Us
joy
as a
of laughter.
people is laughter.
That's right.
Right?
It's a healer.
It's a healer.
Especially with what has gone on since March 2020.
Right.
You know, and that's why I'm out here on the road now. I'm taking it back to those, that was 1991 when we first started, you know, Def Comedy Jam.
Right.
So I have my hashtag now is 21 is 91.
Right.
I'm really trying to take it back, and I often say that with the success of Def Comedy Jam, we were able to take young rising stars from the outhouse to the penthouse.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's where I'm at again. I want to show America and the world how it was done, because, prior to me traveling around, you really didn't know that it was so many, young up and coming black and brown, comedians and what have you. And, with the way things are today, it's, it's more, we need to do it again.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm back out here to find the next Kevin Hart, the next Chris Tucker, the next kings and queens of comedy, Cheryl Underwood, Tracy Morgan, J.B. Smoove, Deion Cole. It's so many. Craig Robinson, of course, Bill Bellamy. So many comedians have, come through, my down my street. Tiffany Haddish,
Right.
I had Tiffany on Def Comedy Jam when we was filming in Los Angeles in what was that, in 2007. And then in 2016 or 17, whenever it was, we do this movie called Girls Trip, and the rest is history.
Right.
Monique's an Academy Award winner. She was on the Def Comedy Jam tour. We were playing Los Angeles, the amphitheater, and that's when the producers from the Parkers discovered her.
Right.
So it's been so many. Dave Chappelle, he's a Mark Twain winner. Dave, on our Netflix special, Dave mentioned that I had passed on him 3 times, which was just a joke. But, I actually put Dave on. He was still a teenager.
18, wasn't he? Or so?
And he had his point of view was pretty much how it is now, but he hadn't lived.
Right.
So now, Dave's
didn't
in
have
his
the
mid-40s.
experience.
Exactly. So that's why, when you look at these, these young comedians, all of them aren't,
Right.
these, what you say, we was talking earlier about these Instagram guys, those are 4-minute guys who, you see a promoter who's just trying to fill seats. He'll wrap the show around real comedians and have these guys go out there and pretty much die of a slow death. But still, people will get entertained by their social media presence. So that's where they really need to stay. Because you have that young comedian like a Chappelle out here who now I can identify on this Back to Basics comedy tour that I'm running around here, just trying to bring back 91. What's his name? J.B. Smoove and football player, Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp. They were doing a podcast that I happened to stumble on, and Shannon was talking about the golden age.
Yes.
And I'm saying to myself, if they only knew how that came about. Even Chris Tucker was on a podcast with T.I. during the pandemic. I had a lot of time to watch all this, and I'm hearing my name and things like that. But then Chris is telling the story about how a producer discovered him, at a time when no one was really paying attention, and I was that producer.
Right.
And even when I think about, I look at Kid Capri, and Kid and I, we're working on a project now to bring a late night stand-up back, so we can use it as a platform for the next generation. But the whole thing with Kid happened because I was a DJ in the comedy club.
Wow.
Yeah, because I wasn't, anytime you came into a comedy club, it was like the piano player, or you had the snare drum. And I was a DJ, so why not flip the script and bring the wax into the room?
Exactly.
And it's turned into a phenomenon where a comedian can't even go on stage unless they have their DJ right.
So Bob, you're the one that started that.
And what people don't understand is the music is just to enter and exit the stage. It's not really based on you reciting all of the lyrics, because as a television producer, I'm not paying a publishing fee for that.
Right.
Unless it's like your joke is just so cool that we can't deny it.
Right.
And, or maybe we can call an artist and they'll give us, the authority to do it, So.
I love that part. You were mentioning some of the names, and we're going to reiterate a lot of those that you discovered over the time. Kevin Hart.
Kev, it's interesting with Kev because he had written his first book.
Yes.
And I'm reading the book, and then it gets to the chapter.
Yes.
And then I see the Bob Sumner. And I was like, it's interesting that Kev would remember his first encounter with me.
Right.
Which was nothing more than Def Comedy Jam. We first aired in 1992. And we had a nice run in New York City with Martin Lawrence. And we moved over to Los Angeles, and we had like an all-star hosting, all of this. So then the show was pulled for a minute.
Right.
And during that time, we continued to tour. We had a contract with a beverage company, so we would do these opening act tours. We would go around, and we had the Fat Farm brand. So we would award the winner a Fat Farm leather jacket, touring jacket, and we would give them give them a check, and give them an opportunity to open up on the tour when it comes to their city.
So, and that's the big thing, right there.
Yeah, it was cool. So
they're in their city,
right,
opening up.
Exactly. So we're not on the air now, but we're still doing this thing for a few years after the show. Right. And so we're in Philadelphia, and all of these comedians are performing. And then it's this one kid that comes on. I think his name was like Kev the Bastard or something crazy. But you saw it then. And it's the it factor of a comedian, and this Kevin Hart just took over. He commanded the audience and this, that, and the other. And this is like in 1996, 1997. Wow. And years later, Kevin is Kevin. But the other thing that Kev has is great character. He's just a great guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? So he's so deserving of everything that he's getting right now, and he's giving back. Yeah. He's pulling others up and all that. So you got to give him his props.
The next one, Bill Bellamy.
Well, Bill Bellamy is, anybody would tell you Bill Bellamy and I came into the game pretty much together, professional game. I had already been doing the underground, and that's where I met Bill. And I just saw that he had so much to offer. Right. Charisma. He was a economics major at Rutgers. Right. But here he is, trying to be a stand-up comedian. And I never forget the day that I told Bill it's time to quit your day job, because you can't make it to your day job because you're burning the midnight oil so much. Right. And, when I pretty much, he got the MTV gig was based off of me, just pulling strings and trying to make things work for him. And he was the first performer on Def Comedy Jam, actually, when it was time to do that. As I'm actually getting ready to do a podcast called Just Kicking It with Bob Sumner and my DJ from the Apollo, Cool DJ Marv. And I did the pilot with Bill. And I mean, when we release it, it's going to blow people's minds, because we went all the way back to like when he was a junior in high school. Right. I knew him because he went to Seton Hall Prep. Right. And I went to Seton Hall University, and the gym, the Walsh gym, was connected to the radio station. So I used to come in there and watch the kids play basketball, and Bill was one of the guys. And who knew years later we would be rolling like we have for 30 years.
Sounds good. Let's do this. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back. The Cam Hill Show.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
amazing things for you. Experience the pinnacle of performance at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $369 a month, or the new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $449 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for only $509 a month, all for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
When you shop Ron Carter, RonCarterCadillac.com.
Oh boy. I'm going old school on his butt.
Let's play a game. I'm a savage.
Come on.
Hey, anyway, I let you still attached. Ooh, everybody right, but you
I got it.
Ooh,
She got me.
classy, bougie, ratchet.
Granny's out here having a martini at halftime.
Haters gonna hate.
I'm a
Space
savage.
Jam, July 16th.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, we've just sitting here talking to Mr. Bob Sumner. We were just picking up and just talking about Bill Bellamy. We talked about Kevin Hart. Man, Dave Chappelle, 18 years old, met this guy, and look at him now.
Yeah, I mean, just a great guy.
Yeah.
You know, a great guy who's, I mean, what he's doing right now out in Ohio, he has this farm out there, and you know, the quarantine, you know, the pandemic did not stop him from doing what he's doing.
Right.
You know, I don't even know how to, I don't have words, like just an incredible person, you know, inside out, and everything that's happening with him, he deserves. You know, he went through those changes, and
Right.
you know, and look what happened. If he would have signed that contract, it would have been a whole nother story.
It would have.
And that's the thing about some people, their integrity isn't there. You know, it's all about trying to get that quick dollar. But David is just, he's brilliant. That's the word I should be trying to find for him. Just brilliance. Pure
I'm so
brilliance.
glad you mentioned that. We're talking about the business of comedy. We know that comedy or being creative is 10%. Mainly 90% business. We lose out on that business part of it. We don't have the representation. We don't read we don't know a lot about contracts. Or we're signing things that we shouldn't sign. Just like you were saying with Dave, in a sense of there's a contract out there. Had he signed, it would have been a different story. Let's talk to people a little bit about the business side of it, of what comedy is.
Well, I mean, the first thing is you really have to become first the comedian. You have to know what that part is.
Right.
And honestly speaking, I welcomed this stoppage, so to speak, even though it interfered with my pocket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really did. I mean, I had all of these shows booked for the Apollo.
Lined up before COVID.
Exactly, and all of that. So I had to figure it all out. But at the same time, I welcomed it because it gives me an opportunity to do the things that I did in 1991 in 2021. So let's start with the comedian.
Yeah.
Before there's any manager, before there's any agent, it's you.
Yeah.
You are the manager. Now, what you first have to do if you're performing in front of me is show me who you are, not just as a talent, but your character. Everything goes together, because I can't have you in wardrobe or in craft services, you know, driving my staff crazy. So that's something that you need to know who you are before you even hit those stages, because someone's going to approach you after the show and you have to know how to present yourself correctly.
Right.
You know? So now, how do you develop yourself as a stand-up comedian? It's 5 minutes at a time. You know what I mean? Know how to work a 5-minute set where, you know, and have a friend of yours or in the audience, like paying attention to the material that you was using to see what worked and what didn't. Because if you take 5 minutes and 3 of those minutes worked and 2 minutes didn't, you have 3 minutes now.
Yeah.
So now let's go figure out what the other 2 minutes are. And in terms of what that type of material is, it should really be point of view material, whether it's current events, how you feel about current events, or how your workspace, how it was when you grew up in school, your
Right.
town. Talk about things that other people can relate to that could possibly turn into what? A sitcom or
Right.
something like that. So it's really about building those minutes from 5 to 10, 15 minutes. You start getting paid. You start moving around, get $100 here, $200 there. You could run around and make 15, 16, $2,000 a week in the early stages. Then you start creating a space for you in terms of just how do you start writing about your life.
Right.
You start maybe, because it's easy now to do an independent where you can start turning money in. People start watching you. Now you take your stand-up. They know you do stand-up. Now you go to the improvs or what have you. And you now are on, like, you're making money.
Right.
You're making money, but there's a way to do it, and you can do it yourself. And then you start paying attention. Once you have a reel and stuff, now it's time for you to say, you know what? I need somebody to be my manager. You know what I mean? I need my manager to help me find this agent. I have this EPK, which is an electronic press kit, to show people now.
Right.
But you can't show people stuff if you haven't done anything, and not that you have a big resume, but that's what you'll be on your way to developing. But, just know, even when you do take on a manager, that it's just somebody that's not just chasing a commission.
Right.
Because you can be your own manager and make your own calls and stuff if you have to. When I first got into this business, it wasn't no social media.
Right.
So I was running from DC to Atlantic City to drop off somebody's headshots
Right.
and stuff like
Right.
that. So, it's the business. And even don't become that comedian that just is a regional comedian. Work out. Go around, because
That's good right there.
Yeah, go around, because we might have ShopRite on the East Coast, but they have Ralph's on the West Coast. They have Kroger's in Atlanta. Like, know the space that you're working, because when you're telling a joke and I don't know that area,
Right.
it's like the joke doesn't work for the guy who's going to put you on. All of these people is cracking up, but remember, this show is national. So, you have to know how to be on brand.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You have to know your audience. Every comedian isn't prepared for mainstream.
There you go.
Every mainstream comedian is not prepared to go into the blue room. You know what I mean? So develop your voice, but try to be a comedian where you can go into any room.
Wow, that's
You know
good
what I'm
right there.
saying? So it's so much to it. I mean, this is Bob Sumner 101 right now.
I love it. I love it. Because right now what we're doing is just preparing people. We're coming out of COVID, okay? A lot of people have lost their job, but they all had dreams. Several had dreams.
Yeah.
And many of those dreams are the ones where they were creative, could be comedy, where they're coming out and they're saying, hey, I'm now able to do what I want to do.
Yes. And I can honestly say I was in a depressed state.
Yes.
I was in a denial state. It was rough for everybody.
Yeah.
But you have to come out of that shell and figure it out. And I had to talk with God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like the Stevie Wonder album. I had to talk with God.
Yeah.
And he told me, Bobby, you need to get back out here and do what you did.
Right.
And it's
Going
very
back to the
important.
basics.
Yeah, it's going back to the basics. But at the same time, I mentioned to you earlier, Kim, that, I had the Apollo booked,
Right.
solid, for the rest of the season. But now all of that gets scratched.
Right.
Because the narrative in stand-up comedy has had to change, because it's so many things to talk about. When the pandemic first hit, one of the topics was Jada's entanglement.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So now some comedian need to be talking about that.
Right.
Some comedian need to talk about how they haven't seen a kid is like, where's Uncle James? I haven't seen Uncle James since last March. And it's only because Uncle James wasn't Uncle James. He was the sugar daddy who is now back home with his wife and kids. You know
That's a good one, yeah.
But that's something to write about.
Because it shut down everything. Hotels.
Yeah, it shut down everything. So
motels.
Yeah, everything is in the back seat. You know what I mean? Basically, people couldn't pay their
right.
Right. So, and then you have not to mention, the BLM of it all.
Right.
And how, we are now kind of on the forefront of people want to see us, making moves.
Black Lives Matter.
But at the same time, you can't tell me that someone hasn't picked up their pen and have written about what happened on January 6th in Washington, D.C.
Right.
That was unbelievable.
Yes.
But it's something that some stand-up comedian will get up on stage and talk about something that somebody thought about.
Yes.
Because that's the beauty of stand-up.
Yeah.
When people are saying things and you're cracking up because you was just telling your best friend that same thing.
Right.
So again, that's where we are with this, with the reset.
Yes.
I like to call it. I'm out here now looking at all comedians, any comedian that has dealt with me from 91 and all of the shows that I have produced and all of these young, fresh comedians, because I go from Def Comedy Jam to my latest Laugh Mob's Laugh
Let's
Tracks.
talk about it.
So it's like I'm trying to find stand-up comedians who have great stories with beginnings, middles, ends.
Yes.
Right? I want you to be fresh. I want fresh material because at this point, so many people will be talking about the same subject matters, but who tells it best?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm into rising stars. I want to see you become a movie star, a film star. And there's a way to do it. And this is really the way to do it.
That's so good. Kings of Comedy. You guys put that, just putting that together or having that type,
Yeah, well, the Kings of Comedy, again, that wasn't my brand, but I had them when they were all princes.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was I used to watch Bernie Mac every night for 2 years, and
Cedric the Entertainer.
Yes, and they're doing a biopic on Bernie now, and I'm saying whoever's producing this has to call me for that piece of it because I'm the beginning. And if you go online, in Bernie's audio book, he mentions that he used to, be a front until he met me.
Wow.
And I gave him that opportunity to take his career to where he took it, So again, when I see these veteran comedians,
yes,
as well as these up and coming rising stars, unless you've had a Netflix special, a Showtime special, an HBO special, and I've gotten some people, these, Showtime specials or whatever, but unless you had one of them or a sitcom or a movie, it's all fair game right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's brand new. Even the size of the comedy clubs have scaled down.
Absolutely.
Where you used to get booked based off of your past because all I needed was the place to be packed because I was going to make my money on beverages and food. Now it's like I need funny up there, not used to be funny.
Yeah.
So that's where I come in. So we're going to have a great time with this reset. I really welcome it.
Well, I'm glad. What I love about you is that as just reading and just looking at you along the way, there wasn't ever a time that you looked at a person and looked at their background. You looked at their present, who they were present. Why so? At their present, just who they are, not the other paperwork, not them saying they went to Yale and all these other places. It's who they are.
I don't even now, I hear a lot of people, how many followers do you have?
Right. that kind
know
of
where
thing.
you go. Yeah. How many views do you have?
All of that.
Listen, you could sit in that room and edit that footage all day.
Yes.
But live is a whole nother ball game.
Yes.
And, I never forget Old Dirty Bastard, rest in peace, and Flavor Flav. I was booking a room in New York City, and they both called me at different times wanting to try stand-up. And I told them, it's not like the video.
Right.
It's not like me and Mariah, you know what I mean, and all that, what's up, boy?
Right.
It's not that. And both of them, after their sets, they was like, B, you never lied, man. This is rough.
It's rough.
I'm gonna go back to music.
Yeah. And that's a long time. 5 minutes, a long period of time. People don't think that. They don't feel, they say in their mind, 5 minutes is nothing. But standing up there 5 minutes after you've come off of your Instagram or whatever, been on their minutes, right?
5 minutes is 5 minutes is like a half hour.
Right.
I mean, if you're not rolling.
Yes.
But 5 minutes is like 1 minute if you're rolling.
Yeah.
And that's why with this Bob Sumner's Back to Basics comedy tour, I'm giving them 10 minutes because I'm trying to do two things. I'm trying to see if you have a 7-minute showcase within your set.
Yes.
And I'm also seeing if you can stretch 10. Because if you get to that 8 minutes, it gets rough. But if you can pick off of that 8 minutes and go into the next 2 and still be slamming, I know that you have them other 10 because that's where the crowd work comes in. That's when you come in just to get the audience ready for your set. You know, you can play with a few of those minutes. And once you have a 20-minute set, I can put you on an ensemble and take you on tour. So that's why I'm doing 10 minutes.
Right.
Because I'm watching you kill for 4 and 5. And then I hear you going, how you ladies doing?
Right.
So what's really going on? That when you start going there, I know, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's that middle. You might even have that ending, but I recall the flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
The flat don't work for me.
Because you're taking them on the road, you're taking them all over. Again, Showtime, HBO, these are different sets, Netflix, all of this.
And casting agents call me all day, every day. When I leave here, I have a call with someone to call me from Hollywood. But the other night, I've been looking at some real, some stuff.
Right.
But the other night, I'm just looking at this guy.
Yeah.
And I could tell his stand-up, presence wasn't really, major, but it didn't have to be because his pen was working. But I couldn't take my eyes off of him because I said to myself, if I see that there's a casting call for the Curtis Mayfield story, this guy was a spitting image of Curtis.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a trip because I, approached him after the show and I said, man, I need to, here's my card. And I said, man, anybody, I said, Curtis Mayfield. And he started cracking up. I said, what's so funny? He said, man, you're about the 5th person to say that. I said, that's because you really look like Curtis Mayfield. And I'm just thinking about, as I've taken this trip, I'll call you, Cam. I say Curtis Mayfield's story is getting, guess who I put in there to audition?
This guy.
So that's what this thing is for me. It's like just trying to pick up on even like sketch comedy. People don't realize that stand-up and sketch is 2 different ball games.
Right.
The stand-up can get you to sitcom. Doing characters during your audition for a sketch show get you to sketch. You can't go up, there's the people from Saturday Night Live and you up there just telling your regular jokes. You have to really break into some characters, whether they're original, your Uncle James, or whether it's a comedian in Chicago the other night. Did these 2 pieces. He had other pieces, like he fulfilled that 10-minute stretch, right?
Yeah.
But he did Ving Rhames in Baby Boy. Listen, I remember when I first saw Bernie Mac, I actually had tears in my eyes from the laughter. I was crying. Dude had me crying.
Wow.
Okay? With this Ving Rhames character from Baby Boy, right? Messing with Jody and all that.
Right.
Now, he leaves that. He's doing more material. Why did he go into Ray Charles and Ray? It was like, and I'm saying to myself, he's ready for a sketch show because if he has these two characters
down
in within the 10-minute set, I know he could pull other stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I do. I'm just all into identifying the next star. And Mike Epps and Ebony Jet did a story on us, and they got a quote from Mike Epps, and it tripped me out because he said I was like the Mozart or Yoda of comedy.
Absolutely.
And it was crazy. And again, when whoever saw the great documentary on Clarence Avant that Reggie Hudlin put together, the Black Godfather on Netflix, you know, many people have said to me that that's what's happening with me, and we're presently doing that. We're working on my documentary called The Birth of Death, Who Was Bob Sumner.
I want to hold that right now because I want to talk to you. The Cam Hill Show will take a break.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Amazing things for you.
Experience the pinnacle of performance at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $369 a month, or the new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $449 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for only $509 a month, all for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
When you shop Ron Carter, Cadillac.com.
Yeah. Oh boy. I'm going old school on his butt.
Let's play a game. I'm a savage.
Come on.
Whoa.
Hey, I let you still attached. Ooh, everybody right, but
I got it.
Ooh,
She got me.
classy, bougie, ratchet.
Granny's out here having a martini at halftime.
Haters gonna hate.
I'm a
Space
savage.
Jam, July 16th.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Sounds good. With Bob Sumner right now, we were just talking, Bob, just about life itself, all of the people that you've put on, all of the comedians that you have just their careers have flourished, right?
Pretty much.
During this time.
Pretty much.
Just by doing these same things. Open mics have been real big for everyone, right? That we don't have as much anymore.
Yeah, open mics are very important because you even have that comedian that need that practice feel.
Right.
They can't always just be on fleek. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because how do you perfect your craft
Right.
without, I know AI used to say practice. No, you do need,
Right.
you do need practice.
Yeah.
And, that's what the open mics are. But with what I'm doing, this isn't an open mic.
Right.
This is hey, show me what that open mic has done for you.
Let's
and can
talk
we
about
take
what
you?
we're going to see tonight. We're going to go to one. It's going to be 10, right?
Yeah, we're going to see 10 comedians tonight over at the Speakeasy Comedy Lounge inside, what is
Phil
that?
and Derek's.
Yeah, Phil and Derek's.
Yeah.
And a great place. And I mean, the energy in the room last night was Al Freeman and Cliff. They really put on a great production. I was very pleased in the talent. We looked at 10 comedians. I kind of like warmed the audience up in terms of letting them know what it is, because it's very important to give the last comedian in these situations the same love that you give the first comedian.
Right.
It's 10 comedians doing 10 minutes. Somewhere along there you could get very restless and chatter and stuff, but we don't want that 9th or 10th comedian feeling that they were slighted.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just what it is. But we didn't have that problem last night. And by looking at the list tonight, it's going to be some surprises on that stage, because, again, I said, I don't care who you really are, unless you are in that 15 to 20 comedians who don't need to perform in front of Bob Sumner right now. They eating well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Matter of fact, y'all could send me something and maybe a Bentley or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, that's what's happening.
Absolutely.
Y'all can see me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's look at it. We don't want to finish off. We want to make sure we've expound on Laugh Mob, just to make sure of what it is and where we're going with it. Because next year we're going to Virginia after this.
Yeah, well, no, I'm actually going. You're right. I'm going to Richmond. I just come from Dallas, and then I'm off to, you know, the next and the next. But basically, I'm just around here looking for more of Bob's best.
Yes.
And that's what Mob is in Laugh Mob. More of Bob's best. That's
I love that. I love that.
The reason I created Laugh Mob is because it's just that. Laughing, Mob is like a family. And again, the acronym is more of Bob's best. So if you take the kings and queens of comedy and you know, the Cheryls and the Chris's and the Bills, you know, back then, that would have been Laugh Mob.
Right.
And Laugh Mob basically was created off of Berry Gordy. You know, I saw what Mr. Gordy did. I was a little kid at the Apollo.
Right.
I saw what he used to do with those young, you know, great artists. So that's what I wanted to do, and hopefully create TV shows and films and stuff that can star, you know, the artists who I've found.
Right.
You know, but you know, they all have done well, you know, coming out of the Def Comedy Jam brand, but the Def Comedy Jam brand wasn't Bob Sumner's brand. You know what I mean? So, you know, I had time to put it all together, and I've shot some specials for Showtime. Of course, you know, we have the Laugh Mob's laugh tracks running now. And, you know, even if you look at the videos on YouTube that I did, you know, you had people like Tiffany Haddish starring in one. You had Tony Baker, who's a big YouTube star right now with the Animals Talking. He was in one. So, you know, we've been able to take the brand other places. Aspire Network, Magic Johnson's network, I decided to do an all-clean comedy show called Laugh Mob's We Got Next. You know what I mean? And then that went very well for the time that we were there. So I'm just trying to take this brand and open up more doors for the next generation, because somebody has to do it. I did it before. Why not do it again? It's hashtag 21 is 91.
There you go. So happy you're here with us. What would you like to leave with our viewers? Let's look into the camera and let them know.
Dream big. Dreams come true. The failure to plan is planning to fail. Go for yours. And in those prophetic words from my godfather, he once said to me, Bobby, you could walk with kings and queens, but don't you ever lose the common touch. Remember that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mr. Bob Sumner. Man.
Thanks for having me, Cam.
I appreciate you so much.
We're going to laugh tonight.
We sure are. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be at Phil and Derek's Speakeasy Comedy Lounge tonight. We're going to start at 8 o'clock.
We're going to start at 8 o'clock, but I just want to say, if anybody wants to know more about comedy, I am available on Facebook at Bob Sumner Comedy Spot.
Right.
You know, you can find me there, or anyone can holler at me on Instagram at bob.sumner, not summer. Okay? S-U-M-N-E-R.
Right, absolutely. Thanks so much. Thank you, audience. Thank you, friends, for joining us on the Cam Hill Show, 12:30, 1:30 Central Standard Time. See you then. Bye.